Republican leader in the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell, announcing today he will be stepping down from that role in November. And tonight it leaves many wondering who might fill the shoes of the longest-serving Senate leader in American history, and could it end up being a South Dakotan? Parker Brown in studio with our 9 o'clock top story tonight. Parker.
Good evening, Brian. Since Senator McConnell's speech earlier today on the Senate floor, there's been an outpouring of support and appreciation from other Republicans. With it, it also brings speculation over who the next Senate Republican leader will be, and Sioux Falls' own Senator John Thune is being discussed as one of the frontrunners.
I yield the floor.
McConnell's announcement comes earlier than some may have expected. It marks the end of an era for the Republican Party, which has been led in the Senate by McConnell since 2007. Senator Thune praised the work of Senator McConnell in a statement saying, "For decades, he's been a fierce defender of the Senate, our conference, and our party, and we're all better for his service." Mitch leaves enormous shoes to fill, and it's with humility that I look forward to having a discussion with my colleagues about what the future holds for the Senate Republican Conference and a new generation of leadership. Until then, thank you, Mitch. While it's still early, speculation about McConnell's replacement is already under discussion. Lisa Hager is an associate professor of political science at SDSU.
The running joke I've seen is that it's going to be somebody named John. That's in reference to Senator John Thune, obviously here in South Dakota, but also Senator John Cornyn or Senator John Barrasso. I think those are really the three front runners.
Political analysts believe that as the current Republican whip, Senator Thune is a strong candidate of the three Johns. But the divisions within his own party may provide some difficulty since he aligns closely with McConnell. Michael Card is a professor emeritus of political science at USD.
McConnell's what I call traditional republicanism really isn't the isolationist that the populist wing of the party has, and that's going to create some real challenges for whoever is selected as the party leader.
The last time a South Dakotan held a leadership role like this was Democratic Senator Tom Daschle. The potential of another South Dakotan in the national spotlight adds to the current speculation of Governor Noem on Donald Trump's running mate shortlist.
Being thought of in that federal capacity is a really good thing for the state. It shows that they are not only representing their state well to be thought of for these positions, but also that they're accomplishing the things that they went to Washington to do.
Both Hager and Card say that the next Republican leader in the Senate will be crucial to the future of the Republican Party, especially with the in-party divisions in the upcoming election. Brian?
Parker Brown tonight. Parker, thank you.